Abortion involves two major things that God created. And let me explain this first. Because the argument when it comes to abortion is really has been, when does life really begin? When is it okay to perform abortion? At what stage? What trimester? But honestly, the argument should really be, it's not even an argument, but it should be the focus on what is sex. It might be a weird thing to say, but it's it's the action that resulted in the outcome of life that has now brought us to the position of abortion. And now we're looking at two major things that God created. No matter what your stance is, it's just realistic. God creates life, and He created sex. In the beginning, God created Adam and Eve, told them to go out and multiply. And how do humans multiply or reproduce? They have sex. So God gave us the act of sex in order to reproduce so He can create life. And I don't think enough people are truly educated on just the simple fact of what sex really is. I mean, when you look at it from what it is, it completely changes your viewpoint on it. Because in all reality, the thought of taking care of another life is scary. As a matter of fact, it's terrifying. And it should be. It's a huge responsibility. It really is. But that means the act of sex should also be equally scary to us, or there should be more thought involved than just doing it because you feel the lustful temptations and the lustful desires to do so. Now, here's the messy thing with sex, is that it was created in such a way where it was literally created to produce life. That's why God created sex, right? He created it for humans to go out and multiply, for us to reproduce. It was created for us to create life. And the thing about sex is there's only one possible outcome from sex, and that is the creation of life. There's only one possible outcome. Now, we can do everything that we can to manipulate the outcome, right? We can wear protection, we can wear condoms, we can take birth control, we can pull out. I'm just being real. We can pull out. We can try to manipulate this in so many ways so that way we don't get the one possible outcome. But even in those cases, there are still plenty of accidents where the act of sex ended up producing life, because that is what sex was always meant to do. Whether it was done for lustful desires, or it was done with the one intention of just simply creating life and creating a family. That's where it gets messy, though. Because, not enough people understand what sex really is, especially the younger generation. And in a broken, sinful world, it gets really messy, right? Because we have the internet, we have Tinder, these different sites on the internet where you can literally fulfill a lustful desire right here, right now, and you can have sex with a complete stranger. That's where it gets messy. And it gets messy because we just said that there's only one possible outcome for having sex, and that's the production of life. That's it. It fulfills lustful desires for us, but that's not the ultimate outcome. Right? Like, you get this temporary feeling of lust that makes you feel good about yourself, that was feeling good in the moment, but it was all in the moment. But the outcome is life. And when you don't stop to think before you're actually going to follow through with having sex with someone, whether it's your spouse, whether it's your boyfriend or girlfriend, whether it's a stranger, whoever it is, if you don't stop and think, am I ready for the responsibility that sex is going to give me. That's the way you probably should be looking at it. Even before you even do this, am I ready to be a parent? Am I ready to take on the responsibility of life? Even if I'm wearing protection, even if we're on birth control, even if we have all of our arsenal loaded up so we can try our very best to make sure that we don't get pregnant, there's always a chance. And you got to stop and think, even if I do all these things, am I ready to take the chance of doing something that was only created to produce life? And if you look at it in that sense, you might go, maybe not right now, And I mean, it's a totally different spin on, well, where does life start? When does life begin? To me, life begins when the woman sees the stick and it says that you're pregnant. Life begins when that person reads and finds out that they're pregnant. Because the feeling that you get of the, oh crap, what do I do now? That's the outcome. You realize there's something growing inside of you. Now, I'm not a scientist, I'm not a doctor, but to me, if something's growing inside of you, something must be alive in order to do so, whether it's your body or not. It's got to be a life of some sort. And it's going to be a baby eventually. That was a product of sex. Okay? And this also pours into sex in general. Okay? And this isn't me being gay phobic or anything like that. It's just being real, because I know a lot of people will probably take this the wrong way. But from a logical perspective, a lot of people say that God, he created people to be gay, or he created the LGBTQ community. You can't say that when the one thing that God created for humans to go out and multiply doesn't work for a gay couple. It doesn't mean he doesn't love you, but his creation wasn't meant to do that. And we can't justify things when his creation doesn't flow like that. You know what I mean? Can a male and a male have a baby? No. Can a female and a female have a baby? No, not naturally, Can a male and a female have a baby? That's what they were created to do. They were created to go out and multiply, right? Now you might say, well, gay people can have sex? Sure, you can multiply, or you can manipulate the act of what it is, right? You can manipulate sex, just like we wear condoms and we take birth control. I mean, we don't think about it, but we're attempting to manipulate the outcome of the one thing that this does. And you can bring sex outside of marriage. You can bring sex outside of what it was created to do, which was create life. But that doesn't mean it's gonna change what it was supposed to do. You know what I mean? Like, you can have sex in a gay relationship, but no matter what you do, it's not gonna produce life. It's just not. So how did God create people to be gay? How did God create the LGBTQ community when gay people can have sex, but they can't get the outcome of what God's creation was supposed to create? That sounds confusing, but in other words, if you're in a gay relationship and you can't have a baby with that person naturally, that's because God's creation, which was sex, when God created sex, he only created it for it to work and produce life and to do what it was created to do within a male and female relationship. But then again, to the abortion thing, I mean, we can debate it all night, When does life begin? When is it better to kill a life? I mean, it's obviously never better to kill a life at any stage at all. And to me, it really does. Like, if my wife showed me a stick saying she's pregnant, that's when that life began. And maybe even before that, because it's growing, it's there, it's happening. What we did produced life because it was created to do that. So I think we need to look at it from a perspective of maybe instead of just having sex all the time because you got lustful desires. Here's the thing, we all have lustful desires. You shouldn't feel wrong for having lustful desires because every single person that lives has lustful temptations and has lustful desires. But you gotta learn how to control that. You gotta learn, okay, I do feel lust, but lust can get me into trouble just like any other sin, right? When it comes down to sex, yeah, it's a beautiful thing. And it's meant to be shared between two people who love each other and are ready to procreate. That's what God created that for, and it's beautiful. However, when it is done with the one thing that it's not meant to do, or as I should say, when you're doing it to fulfill everything else besides the one thing it was created to do, which was create life, then things are going to get messy and things are going to get tricky. You know, stop having sex with people you don't care about. Stop having sex with strangers. Stop having sex when you're not ready for a baby. It's really that simple. If you're not ready to have a baby, if you're not ready to take care of a life, don't have sex. Even with protection, don't do it. Because there's always a chance. And even if you get lucky 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, you may not be so lucky on the 4th, 5th time, whatever it is. You know, we gotta just teach kids, we gotta teach people that sex was literally created to create life. So we can't be surprised when we're having sex and we're creating life, even if we're not ready for it.